In 2019, my husband and my son and I built an igloo out of plastic milk jugs for an event called a Maker Faire in Virginia. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you about how we did that. So you might be wondering, why did we do that? First of all, we were asked to do that by the Maker Faire team because I had this website called Trash Imagination, which was all about creative reuse of materials. And they asked if I would be interested in doing that project, and I thought it sounded interesting. Now, milk jugs are made out of type 1 PET plastic, which is recycled by most municipal recycling programs. And so, in a way, that's great. But unfortunately, we know that a lot of recyclables that are collected by municipalities are not actually getting recycled. And that's unfortunate. So, certainly, it's a good idea to choose alternatives to plastic milk jugs if you can, such as glass milk jugs. So, when we first started evaluating whether to do this project, I did a bunch of searching on YouTube, and there were a few videos showing schools that had built igloos from milk jugs, and in all cases, they were making them by hot gluing together the milk jugs. But we didn't think that would work for us because we needed to be able to build the igloo at home, make sure it would work, and then we had to transport it to the site of the Maker Faire. So it needed to be something that we could put together and then take apart and put back together. And so we decided we would come up with our own method of putting together our milk jugs. But we weren't even sure how to do that. So the first thing we did is we started collecting milk jugs. And I did that by looking through recycling bins, but I could tell that that was going to take too long. And at the time, I only had a few months to figure this out. And so I went to 3 Starbucks in my town and I asked if they would save their milk jugs for me. And all 3 stores were very enthusiastic about doing that for me. So I started visiting them every day, often multiple times a day, and they would put their milk jugs in really big bags for me. And I would take them home and I would clean them all out. It was really important to clean them very quickly or else they would start to smell. And usually I would collect about 20 jugs per day on the weekdays and 30 on the weekends. And so in 3 weeks, I had collected a lot of milk jugs. I felt I had enough that I could start figuring out how we were going to build the igloo. So my husband and I were trying to figure out a way to build this igloo in a way that we could put it together and take it apart and put it back together. And I thought that what we could do is we could drill holes in the milk jugs and then use zip ties to connect them to each other. And we started to do that, and it was taking a very long time to drill the holes. And that's when my husband came up with this really smart idea, which was to use the soldering iron to put holes in the milk jugs, which he did incredibly fast versus using a drill. So then we started putting the jugs together into groups of 10, connecting them with zip ties. And we did that because that's how much would fit in my car when we piled them on top of each other. And we knew we had to drive them to the site, so we wanted to make sure they would fit in the car. So one thing that was interesting is when we would attach the milk jugs together in a straight line, when we would pick them up, they would start to curl together, sort of because of the shape of the milk jug. And this was perfect because the walls of an igloo are curved. So that was a great aspect of the fact of the way we put the milk jugs together. So we got everything put together and we decided we were going to try to build the jugloo in our kitchen. And the biggest challenge was the door. If we could have built an igloo without a door, it would have been no problem. But because there was a door, it would always collapse around the door. And in the videos that we watched on YouTube, everybody would glue the jugs to a large piece of cardboard to keep it from kind of flopping open. So we tried like duct taping it to the floor so we wouldn't have to transport the cardboard, but that did not help. The tape could not bear the weight of all those jugs, and the whole jugloo collapsed. And this was a really upsetting time. We were not sure whether the zip ties were going to work, and we weren't sure what we were going to do. So what I decided to do was that we would build a door frame out of something that was more solid, something that would stand up on its own. And I started looking around my house for scraps of scrap wood or PVC pipes. And that's when I saw that I had these garment racks that I had used from previous events. And they were just the right height for the Jugloo. So we decided to use the garment racks as something like a skeleton for the Jugloo. So in the end, the Jugloo was something kind of like a hut. We built the roof as one roof piece, and then we made the walls, and then we zip tied everything to the garment racks. And that was a relief because in the end, we were able to build the Jugloo in time for the Maker Faire. So next I'm going to share some numbers from the project. So there were 7 rows of 32 jugs to form the walls. That was a total of 224 jugs. And the roof was made from 119 jugs in concentric circles. And then the entrance was made out of 3 rows of 18 jugs or 54 jugs. So the total was 397 2-liter plastic jugs to make the Jugloo. So if you're interested in making a Jugloo or an Igloo out of jugs for your classroom or for your community center, it's a fun project, but it is a lot of work. After we displayed it at the Maker Faire, we did put it up at our local Montessori school, and then we also put it up for a few months at a local nature center. So it did get more use than that one weekend. But after all that, when it was all done, I had, 400 milk jugs. It was taking up a huge amount of space in my house. And so I cut them down to make little plastic butterflies that I use at tabling events for Trash Imagination. But in truth, I could have put them in recycling because, as I said, that type of jug is accepted by many municipal recycling programs. I hope you found this video interesting and inspiring.